sustainable production and consumption is concerned. This is going beyond the rhetoric of wanting to engage in production and consumption. A recent report of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UN DESA 2020, has also shown that the COVID-19 has certainly had a huge impact on production and consumption, but it has had an enormous impact, as the first speaker said, on planet-related sustainable development goals. We know emissions have declined, water quality has improved, and this therefore is seen as a wonderful opportunity for policymakers around the world to ask if it is the right time to push for action of the decade of action for sustainable development goals for 2030. Uh, uh, Appropriate consumption is certainly at the center of all of these. India also said that, while she said that she will work on those 6 or 7 areas, a very clear call for action comes from, as I said, directing public investment. Is it possible to provide mutually reinforcing push and pull that will enable appropriate environmental action? Can we therefore say we will subsidize private investment on cleaner production, on energy efficient production, emission reduction? Once cleaner power is produced, how do we make sure that there is a market for such clean power? Can companies come
Once
together as
cleaner
part of a
power is
joint
produced,
initiative
how do
to
we
look
make
at energy efficiency enhancement, emission reduction, and therefore have a clear impact on the production sector, including the energy sector? The United Nations Industrial Development Organization and the United Nations Environment Program came together in a very, very big way about 20 to 25 years ago. They had formed what are called the cleaner production and the waste minimization circles in various sectors. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency in India works very closely with the World Energy Council, the International Energy Agency, the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, and the Ministry of Energy in trying to synergize efforts. And very importantly, they are saying, we will see towards the end of my presentation, what are the kinds of mechanisms we are looking at to mobilize public participation. The point I wish to therefore make is the call for sustainable production and consumption is supported by regulatory interventions, market-based interventions, and institutional mechanisms to be able to bring stakeholders together. We know very well that there are several models which are trying to discuss how well can consumption and production patterns adapt themselves to the post-COVID scenario. The UN DISA had also referred to a very interesting couple of scenarios, and they refer to what is called COVID-19 pessimistic scenarios and COVID-19 optimistic scenarios. These pertain to 4 very important actionables. Is it possible, therefore, for countries to learn from the COVID-19 challenge and therefore say we will do everything to minimize damage in the future? An appropriate mix of production, consumption, energy efficient measures, eco-industrial development, waste minimization, cleaner production, and energy efficiency enhancement measures, and so on. This should therefore come together to help recover from the damages much faster. Now, is it therefore also possible to introduce other complementary measures of institutional mechanisms and for public benefit, healthcare systems, social protection, and governance systems for better reporting, monitoring, and verification? We are therefore not simply saying that we'll have to enthuse the public to look for cleaner consumption, but also create the appropriate enabling environment by which this can be motivated further. I have a typical case of how India and several countries around the world have developed what is called the National Cooling Action Plan. The Cooling Action Plan is a very good window of opportunity to respond to energy efficient refrigeration and air conditioning systems. The previous speaker spoke about sustainable food production and consumption. We know cold chains, especially degradable agricultural products, meat and fish, have enormous implications for energy efficient refrigeration, air conditioning systems, air conditioning especially for comfort. The cooling action plan, especially through the Kigali Amendment, has created this window of opportunity for people to be able to choose appropriate energy efficient and climate efficient and ozone layer protecting equipment by which sustainable production and consumption becomes a reality. We are therefore looking at opportunities if all these four, that is minimizing damage, rapid recovery, introducing appropriate governance systems, and therefore supporting positive gains, we will move towards a COVID-19 optimistic scenario. I've got just two more slides with which I'll stop my presentation to prove the point that India has gone a long way insofar as the energy sector, production and consumption is concerned. She introduced four very interesting mechanisms. I mean India as motherland. She said, let us look at perform, achieve and trade mechanisms, energy efficiency financing platform, a framework for energy efficient economic development, and market transformation for energy efficiency. Pardon me for reading out from there. But then what we see is an enormous benefit. 31 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent have been reduced, have been avoided, and these have been converted into million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. They have had enormous impact, therefore, insofar as the energy production and consumption sectors are concerned. There are two major financial instruments also that have been introduced to leverage financing for energy efficiency through risk mitigation. Through partial risk guarantee fund for energy efficiency and a venture capital fund for energy efficiency. Yeah, this is not the COVID. This is just the early morning blues. Very recently, when many Fortune 500 companies got together in the US, they categorically said COVID has taught us a big lesson, and that is risks for which we are unprepared, and if they are in a position to cause irreversible harm. They therefore said, is it possible, therefore, for any recovery fund that is being introduced in the countries to focus on climate action? A large amount of that money has to go for energy efficient production and consumption. It is not enough if he's, as you can see, it is speaking about investment in cleaner, resilient energy, including the transportation infrastructure. Even the workforce is invited to therefore look at newer skills by which sustainable production can become a reality. I therefore would like to stop with this final slide, which says industry is looking at the transition opportunity in a very positive manner. There is a classic publication titled Climate Action 100 Plus, which looks at how major companies around the world have also committed themselves to energy efficient production and consumption. We can take a lot of positive message back from this meeting that industry has woken up to the reality of having to become climate efficient insofar as production is concerned. India is contributing to this whole process and will be most happy to participate in efforts that will only enhance better consumption and production as we progress further. The Montreal Protocol is a very typical example which engaged with consumers in a very big manner. It said, is it possible for people who send their used refrigerators and air conditioners to scrapping places in a manner by which they take responsibility for safe disposal, Once the materials are received at the disposal sites, people who have in fact participated in this program are also given vouchers by which their good action is acknowledged, and these vouchers can be used for buying an environmentally friendly product. Labeling campaigns which very clearly say pick right, choose products which are energy efficient, environmentally efficient, and climate efficient are all catching up in many parts of the world. I therefore will conclude by saying concerted action, regulatory action, market based mechanisms, and institutional mechanisms will therefore create the right context by which energy efficient and climate efficient production and consumption can become a reality. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you, Pak Eko.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Pak Eko, are you there?
I'm sorry, I should unmute myself. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. I think this is a very fruitful thought for our webinar, looking at how the behavior of the consumer in India and how the policies and with the green consumer issue towards sustainable consumption and production. Pak Joni and Professor Gopi, as well as Mrs. Maisara Latif, Member of Parliament of the Philippines. I think we're going to have another discussion session. Maybe we have 10 minutes for discussion. So anyone have a question, please raise your hand. And before we have a question, actually, I would like to, maybe for the presenter, I have a question here. Because when talking about the green consumer, actually, we're talking about the lifestyle, changing lifestyle. This is from upstream to downstream. So but the way how the production can be provide with the interest of the consumer, but also how we change the consumer behavior. So in your opinion, for the presenter, when your experience in Philippines and Indonesia, Pak Joni, as well as in India, how actually the consumer lifestyle with regard to the issue of the environmental, to the green, maybe there is something that more can be shared here from your opinion. Thank you. Maybe start from Ms. Maisara.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question that is actually in my mind today. The question is, first itself is, if I buy this product, will I be able to contribute to the environment or destroy the environment? With the idea in our mind, in order for us to change behavior. So our belief really guides our future course of action. We have to be responsible consumer when we ask ourselves carefully questions that pertains to the purchase that we buy. And then if we buy this product, aside from will it be causing harm to the environment, what is the source of the product? Was the source of the product using sustainable environmental practices or not? If not, then probably you should rethink of buying the product. And then after buying the product, how will I dispose of the product? Will I be able to reuse, reduce, and recycle? Those are some simple behavioral changes that we as consumers must be able to inculcate in our mindset. So it's really about us changing our mindset. We have to change ourselves first before we teach others. Meaning, it's very important to educate our minds, like what we are doing right now, to educate others and advocate before we can go out of the world. So probably the very important thing as a legislator like me is to advocate for a greener environment through the 3 R's that I have mentioned: the reduce, reuse, and recycle framework. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Maybe Padoni, do you have any idea with the question?
Right. Thank you, Pak Eko. I think my point is quite similar to Ibu Maisara Latif. You know that changing habit and lifestyle is not easy. Yeah? And educate consumer, I think we need a very, very long process. We have actually a lot of experience in educating the consumer, like especially for the government, you know, like in many regencies in Indonesia, there are some encouragement of to consume not only rice, you know, like diversification of the consumption of the staple food, but you know the impact of the some program like the promotion program of the diversification, like in Depok, you know, when a day with no rice and so on and so on. But you know the habit of the consumer and the right now the lifestyle of the consumer and the right now in Indonesia, they still very much like rice compared to other kind of staple food. So that's why it is very difficult to change the habit and the behavior of the consumer. But anyway, we still have some opportunity maybe to get consumer to change their habit. You know, like if we have a look the diversification in Indonesia of the food staple. In Indonesia, there are some changing of the diversification, but unfortunately, the diversification of the staple food is not going from the local food, but from the imported food, such as they consume a lot of bread and also noodles, you know, that which is not locally produced in Indonesia. So my point is that it is difficult, but there are still some window of opportunity to educate people to do the greener consumption and so on by giving such as some socialization and then some promotion, encouraging them, and also maybe we can give some incentive, incentive for those who are using the those who consume more organic organic food, maybe some kind of subsidized from the government, or some kind of for those who actually take the local food, and also those who wants to consume something that is more environmentally friendly and more healthy. And also, the most important thing is I agree with the previous speaker, Ibu Maisara, Ms. Maisara Latif. I think that the example is very important, and the example, I think it needs leaderships. Leadership play a very important role in this regard. Toladan. An example is very important. I believe that Indonesia, people in Indonesia can change their mind if their leader also gives some good example doing it. We can have a look to the case of the train in Indonesia. If we have a look in the 90s, how train is managed and was managed, and right now the management of the train company, the PJK, the Perumka, or the PT Kereta Api, right now is very good. Like this. So the window opportunity of changing the habit and the behavior of the consumer are there, but you still need to encourage and probably give some incentive to them. That's what is my point, I think, Pak Eko.
Okay, thank you, Pak Joni. I think, yes, I believe that this is kind of hard to change the lifestyle. I agree that. In our webinar today, almost reaching 400 people, and I believe that 80% of them is youngster. And it is an opportunity for us to educate our community actually. Together, we should realize that the food supply is getting instinct, but the demand is quite high because the population, as you mentioned with the data, as well as mentioned in earlier morning by Dr. Park from the Sejahtera Center, Korea. Yes, so that's why the role of the leadership and as well as the youth, I think is very strategic alliance if we would like to have a sort of changing for this kind of adaptation to the sustainable development. Okay, Professor Gopi, maybe I need, maybe you have something to say with regard to the question.
Thank you so much. Maisara and Joni have already highlighted all the dimensions. You'll have to confirm that I'm loud enough.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. You will be glad to know that I'll add one more dimension to the discussion. There has been a recent deliberation on what is called the science of science communication for impacts. It says, is it possible to very clearly highlight what are the positives and gaps in information? The receivers of information look for complete and holistic messages. When they practice and are guided by what is told to them and they find there are some uncertainties, the level of preparedness to continue with positive action comes down. This fits into the framework of what I said earlier, the science of science communication. Number two, as was rightly pointed out by others, I will consolidate it further by saying a lot of evidence-based policy making is required to understand what prompts positive behavior and what comes in the way of positive behavior. Is it a question of market or institutional mechanism or appropriate information not being available in a timely manner? This, therefore, is the landscape of science communication. While I agree that it is difficult to change lifestyles, the most important takeaway is the credibility of the communicator. If the communication comes from institutions and from people who are seen as credible, there is no reason why people will not be willing to imbibe the messages that are placed before them. Are we saying that sustainable consumption and production is not taking place at all? There are a large number of communities and individuals around the world who are sensitized enough. It is only a question of going that extra mile. We need well-targeted logical frameworks to be able to take us ahead on this.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. I think, yeah, we very much agree with your thoughts with regard to how we should adopt the idea of a green consumer. So we have only 2 minutes left actually.
How about Pak Derajat, Pak Eko?
Oh, Pak Derajat sent the PowerPoint. Actually, the data of Jawa Timur is quite a lot here with regard to the policy to have a green production as well as consumer. But unfortunately, they don't have time because it's very limited. So they just send us with the PowerPoint, but we cannot. We can share with the PowerPoint, but we cannot read the PowerPoint of him. So I think at the end of the meeting. In the webinar, people can download from the link as well as from the you call it Google Drive. So any presentation that we presented today, they will available on the Google Drive. I saw here there is from Kuching. Maybe you want to say something from RC Kuching.
RCE Kuching.
Agnes or Andrea, maybe. Do you have any idea to? Naila Indra, do you want to ask your question by yourself? I give you time if you would like to.
Sorry.
Direct.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, very clear, Agnes.
I'm going through everything that people have been saying, and well, I'm still digesting it. And one thing that I find myself thinking about as I'm listening, and it has been mentioned by Professor Gopi just now, and that is we should not, you see, we're aiming for sustainability worldwide, right? But at the same time, we should not put down the little victories that we're seeing in little pockets all over the world. So that's something that I'm thinking. It's whenever we see any success in this, we should celebrate and say, yes, that's very good, because that's how it starts. You know, the old adage, it takes a spark to get a fire going, right? And we have all these little sparks in different parts of the world. And even within their communities, they start to influence the ones around them. So we should not underestimate the power of these little changes. But I will talk more later when it's my turn to talk. But that's what I feel right now as I listen. We should be very excited about how some of the population is excited. Some of the population wants to get involved. Like the millennials, we have to harness the millennials because they are interested in seeing these changes. That's basically all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I agree that, yes, the millennial is a key point actually, because they are living longer than us, Agnes, basically, and then we should do something for them. And yes, and in RC East Kalimantan, we build our strategic communication right now is doing with the food campaigns, how to have, people like the Johnny said that in Indonesia, mostly people cannot, have a diversity, consumption on food. Usually they only have rice and rice again. So yeah, in some places in Yogyakarta, for instance, I say Yogyakarta, maybe can tell us something with consumption and production there. But I saw on the article that then they have make mock-up. So that's not only consume cassava at such, but then create something more, more better food. And it's very good, I think. So what do you think, Professor Gopi?
Thank you.
Okay, it's a Fitri then. I think we already reached the end of the webinar today. A lot of thoughts, very fruitful this morning with regard to how we can, actually there is a PowerPoint that you can have from the East Kalimantan and East Java governor with regard to how they implement the policy towards sustainable consumption and production. And for the concluding remark, I call upon Professor Mario Tabupanan to have some thoughts from our discussion this morning. Professor Mario?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Warm greetings to one and all. I hope I'm clear enough to you.
Yes, very clear, Mr. Professor.
Yes, and a special mention to the rector who mentioned me at the outset. The rector is a distinguished alumnus of my home institution, Asian Institute of Technology. I'm privileged also to mention some names whom I have known for several years now. Dr. Park Yon Kyung, of course, Pak Iko Ernada, and Dr. Abdesh Gangwar, and some others I know from the list. I thank the organizers and all the speakers and participants of this webinar on making right choices, becoming a responsible consumer, and towards sustainable consumption and production, which, as we know, is SDG 12. And this is to commemorate the Green Consumer Day. We are distinctly honored and privileged to have the participation of distinguished government officials and leading professionals from the region, from Indonesia and beyond, who made enriching contributions to the webinar. We have listened and learned from them and from the discussions. As we know, the SDG framework's goals and targets are not isolated from each other. They are, in fact, interconnected. And based on many reports, SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production, interrelates either positively or negatively with most of the other goals and targets of Agenda 2030. But there are some caveats, of course, on these interlinkages. Some negative interactions may just be due to poor governance. Interlinkages may vary from place to place, community to community, region to region, country to country. Some interactions may take effect in real time, and some may have time lags. It is indeed complex, and hence it is all the more important to address SDG 12 prominently, consensuously, and urgently. It has been recognized that with the current consumption, and has mentioned by several speakers as well, current consumption patterns unabated, we need 2 planet Earths by 2050 and beyond. Now, this is because, as Dr. Park mentioned, of the population explosion. So when population is doubled, for example, resource consumption is not only doubled, but tripled, possibly, more than doubled, because of the built-in inefficiencies in the supply chain, as Johnny has mentioned. So it is very important that we attend to this phenomenon. There is no planet B for humans to inhabit. If we call plan A as the business as usual that brought us to the mess now, then there is a plan B, and that plan B critical issue is the need to clearly understand the opportunities of SCP in its contribution to sustainable development. We in the education and learning sectors, both formal and non-formal, need to empower communities through education for sustainable development. The United Nations University acknowledged Regional Centers of Expertise, or RCEs, on ESD, as well as other like-minded partners, networks, have immense roles to play towards achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. SDG Target 12.1 stipulates implementation of the 10-year framework of programs on SCP, what is known as 10YFP, which is a global framework adopted by heads of state at Rio +20 for international cooperation to shift towards sustainable consumption and production patterns in all countries. Professor Gopi Chandran has mentioned the priority areas of India. Those are also the priority areas of the 10YFP. And aside from India, all countries are required to shift towards ACP in 5 priority areas. Namely, it was mentioned by Professor Gopi: public procurement, buildings and construction, tourism, sustainable lifestyle, including education. And the last one, which was the subject of the discussion, was about consumer information. In order to change behavior, you need to strengthen consumer information. So that is one of the 5 priority areas of the 10YFP. So in critically addressing this issue, it requires improving policy framework at the top, stimulating SCP. It requires the technologies and processes involved in the productive activities, and in some cases, adopting local indigenous knowledge. We don't forget about it. Local indigenous knowledge. The way basic services are provided, the way information and communication and goods and services are provided. And very importantly, as I mentioned, and as the theme of this webinar is all about, the way consumers purchase and behave. I urge all in the education and learning sector, including ourselves, both from formal and non-formal sectors, to be agents of transformation and change towards ACP, to facilitate transition towards ACP, redefining the context of education, to integrate ACP into curricula at all levels of education. And practice is a primary task for all of us. So I enjoin all to be a part and parcel of the ACP movement. And we congratulate the organizers again for having this webinar today and tomorrow. I wish all well, stay safe, and have a very good day. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give a hand for Professor Mario
Thank you, bro.
from your home. Okay, thank you, Professor. I think this is, I note some very important thoughts here. And we do agree that this is not something that we can do, we can walk alone. We need to hand in hand. We need to strengthen our networking, cooperation in order to make consumer information more massive. Okay, that this is something that we need to be in regard with our education, so the curriculum, and then how to accommodate local indigenous knowledge with regard to the consumer is very, very important. I believe this is a kind of the strategy that we can do in the next, in the near future time. Thank you very much, all. Give applause to all speakers and Professor Mario as well as Professor Dr. Park, Center, Professor Gopi, Professor Agnes, and then Professor Johnny. All of already give us a kind of inspiring thoughts this morning webinar. And we have two webinar, because today is the first one, and then second one will be held tomorrow in the same time. I wish all have stay safe, stay healthy, and then don't forget to put your mask on and keep distance with the other person, because we are living in the in the pandemic era. Yes, thank you, Professor Gopi. Yeah, you're right. Before we close the session, we have a family photo. So everyone, I think, should put the camera on, and please have a very good smile, And we call first on the first page. There is 15 pages. Oh my God! This is because until now, and there are 345 people in the chat in the room. So let's start with the first page. Smile. The committee ready? Smile. Done. Regina. Oh, Buning Room. Is it taken already? Hello?
Yes, done, sir. You can.
Okay, done. The first page done. Let's repeat again. Can you have a big smile? Okay. Next page. Can you have a big smile? Oh, there is, hang on. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Can you have a big smile? Say cheese. Okay. Third page. Say cheese. Okay. Next. Give a big smile. Say cheese. And then next, give a big smile. Say cheese. Okay. Bear with me a second. Oh, there is a group of, in Indonesia we call it group duster here. I mean, okay. So give a big smile. Say cheese. This is 7 page. Give big smile. Say cheese. And then 8 pages. Say cheese. And the big smile. Anyone? Otherwise I close because there's no video there. Say cheese. Okay. No camera on. Okay. Then no camera on. Okay, only they have a camera, then we'll be take a picture. Okay. I think that's all, everybody. The webinar this morning. Once again, thank you very much for your participation, and don't forget to put your attendance on the link that provided by the committee, and as well as all the material of the PPT is available on the Google Drive that will be shared by the by committee right away after this. If there is maybe lucky end, I just can email to them. Thank you, Abdis, thank you, Agnes, thank you, Dr. Park, thank you, Professor Gopi, Dr. Johnny, thank you very much, Miss Her Excellency Miss Maisha Latif, warm regard from East Kalimantan. Professor Mario, long time not see you. Maybe you can visit after the pandemic to East Kalimantan and East Java. It's very big places in Indonesia. East Java is a big population, and then in East Java it have a huge geographical proximity. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any last word, Abdis? You want to say for tomorrow?
Thank you everyone joining today, and we look forward to having you again tomorrow, same time, same wavelength. It was fantastic, and we are sorry that governors, for their busy schedule, could not join us today. And really, I mean, the message very clear. We have been treating on planet Earth so heavily. And as Mario said, we will require 2 planets. At the moment, we require 1.75 planet, which is not at all. Planet B is not there. So we have to really think of changing lifestyles is the only key. And that this webinar will reinforce the message, remind all of us that we need to look at our own footprint. And also there is a thing called handprint. Handprint is how we support the planet in rejuvenating, in restoring the sustainability. So this both equation of handprint and footprint will really give us the solutions to. And that's it. That's it. There's a lot that we can do. If we look at our footprint, what we do from morning till evening, we will find ample scope of reducing it. And certainly we need to increase our handprint by doing little bit things. So drops make ocean, and certainly the COVID has taught us we have reduced but my Sarah said, and everyone, we could see the air quality, water quality, tremendous improvement. And we could reduce the what we call earth overshoot by 21 days. And even if every year we reduce by 5 days, by 2050 we will be within 1 planet living. So we need to target at 1 planet living as soon as possible. And this webinar gives a clear message. And youth, yesterday we had a meeting at Kuching. RC Kuching held a meeting for their youth. And there was very good zeal, enthusiasm and commitment by the youth. So that happens across the RC community. And I'm sure this movement will multiply, and we will be helping the planet Earth coming to 1 planet living. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all committee, all presenters, and then the attendants, the participants. I'll finish the webinar this morning, but after this, if you want to have little thoughts, maybe I can open the room still, maybe like 10 minutes, maybe Dr. Yung, Inging Kak will want to say something, or Agnes want to more closely discuss, or Professor Gopi, etc. Thank you very much, and see you all tomorrow morning at the same time, different link, I think. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Eko.
Warahmatullahi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Okay, very unfortunately, Pak Abdes.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you so much. And see you tomorrow. You have to take the notes and give the concluding remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Abdes. Thank you.
Pak Doni join tomorrow, ya?
Yes, I'm coming tomorrow. Inshallah, Pak.
Yes, Pak Doni, Pak Rector is, he's actually my fellow mate in university.
Yeah. We are friends in Prajabatan, Pak, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are from the same generation, I think.
Yeah.
Ibu Leni is also here, Ibu Leni.
Oh, Ibu Leni. Agnes, actually, there is a message from our communication strategic. Yes, with regard the building a platform to campaigning responsible consumption, especially diet about the food that we need to share to the youth. So we, from the East Kalimantan, actually it's very good if you can work together, because we live in the same island, isn't it? In Borneo Island. So it's very interesting if we can working together, working closely with regard to the campaigning of the food campaign, about the sustainable consumption and production.
Eko, I need to get your permission. I want to leave this session. Okay, thanks very much for having me.
Bye.
Yeah, okay, thanks very much. I'll try to join tomorrow. morning as well. Okay.
Yes, I'm
Welcome
waiting for
tomorrow.
your
Okay.
participation.
Same time.
Tomorrow will be there is then 8 presentation from the across RCS members,
All right.
and there will be Minister of Trade of Indonesia.
Okay.
It will talk about the policies
Okay.
in the global, I mean, national level. Hopefully, there's no changing because like today, actually the governor ready, but the call by the higher, I don't know, the meeting with the minister or president, so that's why they just cancel it the last minute. And the minister also promised to come as long as the president call him, then they will available. So that's why we make it very early morning. So can let or visionaries speakers can join in some time.
Okay. Thanks very much, Waiko. See you
Thank
tomorrow.
Thank you, Abes. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank
See you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Agnes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.